I'm on the hunt for the holy grail of all Pokemon items, and it all started with Pokemon Yellow. Did you know Pikachu from this game is secretly holding on to a light ball? Because when you transfer it to Gold and Silver, it actually comes with this item, which explains why it is stronger than a usual Pikachu. And it's not just Pikachu. Krabby holds a TM for Ice Punch when you transfer it, Dragonite weirdly enough holds onto an Antidote, and Ditto comes with a Metal Powder item, which might be a callback to his Scrap Steel type evolution, this thing here. And Machop, well, it holds onto one of the rarest items in all of Pokemon. But is it the holy grail? In this video, I'm handpicking the rarest items from every generation to figure out which one truly is the holy grail. And the rules are for this video is that I'm not counting anything that's no longer available or was only accessible through glitches or events. Every item you'll see in this video is still obtained legitimately. You can literally play the game right now to get this item, but it'll be very hard. And at the very end of this video, I'm going to name one as the holy grail of all Pokemon items. Do you have it? Let's find out. Let's start with Generation 1, and out of the 82 items in these games, I think only 3 of them are actually rare. Starting with the town map. Yes, the town map is a pretty rare item, I would say. This item is rare because it's such an easy item to miss at the very beginning of the game, because you have to talk to Blue's sister in order to get one. But unlike other key items like Oak's Parcel from the Mart or the Gold Teeth from the Safari Zone, the town map is a completely optional item, and a lot of players, including myself, didn't even bother talking to Blue's sister and just went straight to getting our first starter Pokemon. I even remember being completely lost trying to figure out where the heck to get this really simple item until I had to finally look it up online. And hilariously, in the Japanese versions of the games, the town map is the only way to learn that you're in the Kanto region by examining the town map before you get it from Blue's sister. So in the English versions, you are technically not in the Kanto region, you're in an unknown region, making this item even funnier if you miss it. So for that reason, I am placing it in the uncommon tier. The Ether. Yes, the Ether item is rare because it is one of 7 items that can only be found in hidden locations in the original games, with the other items being the Max Ether, Elixir, Max Revive, PP Up, a rare candy, and a nugget. But what makes the regular Ether more rare than a rare candy is the fact that it can only be found in 4 locations in the entire game, and 3 of those locations are completely hidden with no overworld Pokeball, even with some of them being in tiles that you would never check, like this fence post here on Route 25, which hilariously enough is essential for being the Pokemon game the fastest time possible, but that's for another video, which makes the Ether item more rare than the rare candy item. And when comparing with the rare candy item, that item can be found in 13 locations. So yeah, the Ether is pretty rare in these games as well, funny enough. So I'm placing it in the uncommon tier as well. And of course, the last item from this generation is the Master Ball, because on paper, it is the rarest item in these games, since you can only get one of them after defeating Giovanni. But it is forcefully given to you by the Silphco president, and everybody knows about it. So I don't really think it's that rare. So I'm placing it in the uncommon tier as well. Next, we have Generation 2, and I think only 3 items from these games are rare. First, we have the Berserk Gene. This item is only available in the Generation 2 games, and hasn't appeared in any game ever since. And really, in any Pokemon media besides the live-action Pokemon movie, where it's simply mentioned as Drug R, hence why the Pokemon in that movie were going berserk. And in the Generation 2 games, it was exclusive to Wild Mewtwo, meaning any Mewtwo you encountered in the wild will be holding onto this item. But the problem was that no Wild Mewtwo were actually programmed into the game, and even if they were, it would automatically consume the item on turn 1 before the battle even started, making this item impossible to obtain that way. So the only way to actually get this item was by finding one on a hidden tile near Cerulean Cave, and you can only imagine how long that must have taken players to figure out to discover this random block back in the day with no internet. So I'm going to say this item is rare, and on the cusp of being very rare. The Brick Piece. Yes, a Brick Piece is one of the rarest items in all of Pokemon, and it's only available in Generation 2 as well. But unlike the Berserk Gene, this one couldn't be found in the game itself, because the only way to actually obtain it was by transferring Machop from the Generation 1 games, as it would always be holding on to this item. But realistically, what are the odds of someone transferring a Machop when Machoke evolves through trading? I feel like most players would have waited to transfer their Machoke instead of Machop to get a Machamp in Generation 2 instead, which makes this item pretty dang rare to come by. And I wonder how long it took for someone to actually figure out that you get a Brick Piece through a Machop. It must have been like a Machop fanatic or something. So I'm going to put this item in the rare tier as well. And then we have the TM for Dig, the only TM in this entire video. And I would say this is the rarest TM to come by out of all of the games. Out of 25 years worth of games, it's the TM Dig from Generation 2. Because in order to get one, you have to walk through this random fence tile that doesn't even look walkable. It looks like just another fence tile, so who would attempt trying to walk on it? But if you were lucky enough to figure this out, then you would follow this hidden path all the way down to a secret grotto between some trees to find one. And this area isn't even visible from the national park, which makes it even more obscure. So I'm placing this TM in the rare tier as well. It is a very, very hidden item. Next up is Generation 3, and there are a ton of rare items from these games, but I thought only 5 of them were worthy for this video. The first one is the Lucky Egg, and out of all the games that you can get this item in, I think Fire Red and Leaf Green are the hardest ones to obtain one in, because not only do you have to find a wild Chansey in the Safari Zone with a 1% encounter rate, but you have to catch one with the Safari Ball with a 30% catch rate, and a Safari Ball has the same catch rate as an Ultra Ball, but at full health, the Chansey becomes even more hard to catch. And then if you're lucky enough to actually capture this lucky Pokemon, the Chansey will have a 5% chance of holding on to a Lucky Egg, which is about a 1 in 2,000 chance per Safari encounter that you get. So this item is really hard to come by in these games, so I'm gonna put it in the rare tier as well. The Lychee Berry. If you thought the Lucky Egg was hard to get, this one is about 5 times harder, because this berry only grows on Mirage Island, which has a 1 in 65,000 chance of appearing each day. And if you have a full party of Pokemon, the odds only improve to about 1 in 11,000. And to put that into perspective, if you played Pokemon Ruby every single day since its release, you still probably would have not seen Mirage Island. This has only been about 8,000 days since it came out. So yeah, this item is ruthlessly rare. It is very rare, which is the tier I'm gonna put it in. The Starf Berry is another super rare berry, because this is basically the trophy item of all the Pokemon games for accomplishing huge feats, like winning 200 straight battles in the Battle Tower or walking nearly 10 million steps with the Pokewalker. But in my opinion, the hardest game to get this berry in is in the Hoenn games, since you have to earn all 7 Gold Frontier symbols in order to get one, which can take anywhere from 150 to 300 hours of gameplay for the average player. And heck, the world record for getting all of the golden symbols is 17 hours by Xarian, which is pretty insane, and that is a true speedrunner professional guy. So this item is very rare as well, based on how difficult it is to obtain. And then we have the Regidolls. These items were only obtainable by scanning a special e-reader card that was only available in Japan. And to get one, players have to submit an application with proof of purchasing Pokemon Ruby or Sapphire to enter a lottery system, where they have the chance to win the Regidoll Decoration Present e-reader card. And then of course have an e-reader to scan the item in the game. And as of today, these items are technically still possible to obtain if you can come across one of the 100,000 e-reader cards that were printed for it. Yeah, back during this era, only 100,000 of them were said to be printed in all of Pokemon. But it would probably cost you several $100s for a legitimate one, because I am not counting glitched or hacked items in this video. So if you want a legit one, it's gonna cost you probably like, I don't know, 500 bucks? I have no idea. It's really hard to come across them. I couldn't even find it when I was researching for this video. So based on the scarcity of this item alone and how little information there is about its release, I'm gonna place it in the very rare tier for now. But this may be the Holy Grail item for this video, but we'll see. And for the 5th item, I might as well include the Eon ticket too, since technically you can still find a legitimate Eon ticket e-reader card that will let you obtain the item in game. But again, it's gonna cost you several $100s for a legitimate one. But I don't think it's as rare as the Regidolls one, because the Eon ticket was distributed for several years versus the few months that the Regidoll cards were given away for. But it still deserves a spot in the very rare tier, because it is such a rare item that you can still get to this day. It is extremely rare. Now let's do Generation 4, and I think only 2 items from these games are truly rare. The first one is the Old Gateau. This item is rare because only one of them can be found in the Old Chateau, which is an optional area that you don't even need to visit in the games. But since it's just an overall item sitting in one of the random rooms in this place, it's actually pretty easy to find, and pretty much everybody knows about it. And most players will go to the Old Chateau anyway to get the Rotom, so everybody will find this item eventually in their playthrough. So I'm gonna place it in the uncommon tier. And then we have the Shiny Leaf Crown from the Johto remakes. This item is so rare that most people don't even know that it exists. And for a good reason, because it is incredibly hard to get in these games. Because in order to get one, you have to have your partner Pokemon find one shiny leaf from 5 different routes. And to find a shiny leaf, you have to visit a route that shares the same nature as your Pokemon. Yes, routes have natures in these games, cool enough. Like Route 44 has the hasty nature, or Route 32 has the calm nature. Even Route 42 has the adamant nature. Did you know that? You can find Rattata in the route that are adamant. But once you find 5 shiny leaves for these routes with the same nature as your Pokemon, you have to visit your friendly rival and they'll turn it into a shiny leaf crown, which will appear in your Pokemon summary. And according to Bulbapedia, this is an item, even though it doesn't have an index number and it doesn't appear in your bag. So I'm going to count it. I would say this is one of the rarest non-event items in all of Pokemon. So I'm going to place it in the rare tier, since you don't have to purchase something in order to get it. Now let's dive into Generation 5 with 3 rare items. The first one are the colored flutes. The only way to obtain these items in Generation 5 is from the treasure hunter on Route 13, but there's a catch. In the original black and white games, he'll only give you 1 item per day, and the odds of getting the item that you want, like a red, yellow, blue, black, or even a white flute, is a 1 in 27 chance, since he can also give you random junk items like a stick or a big pearl. You might get 26 sticks before you get a black flute if you wanted one. So you may have to wait days or even weeks to get the particular flute that you want. But what makes this item not as rare anymore is that they updated it in the sequel games, to where this treasure hunter gives you a flute per day instead of just a random item. So because of that, I would say the colored flutes are uncommon. The second item is the Absorb Bulb, because in the Unova games, Pokemon have a 1% chance of holding a special item in Dark Grass, which is a special grass in these games that spawn double battles with higher level Pokemon. And these items include the Comet Shard, the Ball Mushroom, Toxic Orb, Absorb Bulb, Air Balloon, Expert Belt, Rare Bone, Nuggets, Big Nuggets, and the Flame Orb. And out of these 10 special items, I think the Absorb Bulb is the rarest by far, because it can only be obtained from Wild Roselia with that 1% chance of holding the special item, or very late in the game by purchasing it in the Battle Subway for 16 battle points. And that's it. All the other special items from the Dark Grass can be found in other places in the overworld, so the Absorb Bulb is rare. And the third item is the Relic Crown, of course. Only one of these can be found per game, hidden deep within the Abyssal Ruins. And navigating the Abyssal Ruins is no easy task, because each time you enter, you only have 500 steps before a torrent of water takes you back to the surface. Not to mention the entire place is a confusing maze filled with unreadable engravings. And to get the Relic Crown, you have to skip most of the other items and know exactly where to go to the 4th floor where this item is in, where you just kind of get trapped there until a torrent of water just washes you away. So the Relic Crown, the same one seen in the very beginning of Black and White in his intro, is definitely a rare item. Now let's do Generation 6, where I think only 2 items are worthy. The first one is the Sacred Ash. This item can only be obtained from Wild Ho-Oh, well, besides from the antique shop in Black and White 2, but that's about it. And only in Alpha Sapphire can you actually encounter this Pokemon in the Generation 6 games. But in order to encounter Ho-Oh, it's kind of a long task. You first have to find an invisible item in the underwater in the abandoned ship. Then take it to Captain Stern, who will trade you a clear bell for the scanner you found that was invisible for some reason. And after that, you can encounter a Ho-Oh in Sea Mobile, where we'll be holding the Sacred Ash. I would say this is the hardest game to obtain this item in, so I'm counting it as rare. And then of course we have the Strange Souvenir. This item was actually a hint for the then upcoming Pokemon Sun and Moon games, and it can only be obtained in Pokemon X and Y by talking to this backpacker right here. But it was incredibly hard to get, really annoying actually, because you had to find him in 4 different hotels on 4 different days, and he would only appear in certain ones on specific days of the week. And without any guides or online calendars tracking which days they appear in, it would have been incredibly annoying trying to track him down. You would basically have to visit every hotel every day until he finally gave you this souvenir. So I'm gonna say this item is rare as well. Alright, Generation 7, and not a lot of rare items in these games because I think only one of them is worthy for this video, but that might be enough because it might be the Holy Grail. And that is the Mew Candy item, arguably the rarest candy in the Let's Go games, and one of the rarest items in all of Pokemon. Because in these games, you can release Pokemon to Professor Oak to receive candies for their species. So if you transfer a Tentacruel to Professor Oak, he will give you a Tentacruel candy back, which can be used for Tentacool and Tentacruel to increase their stats by 1 point. So in order to receive a Mew Candy, you basically have to transfer one to Professor Oak, basically sacrificing it for its own candy. And the problem is, Mew is an incredibly rare Pokemon, like incredibly rare. The only way to actually obtain one outside of an event is from My Pokemon Ranch by depositing 999 Pokemon in that game, or by redeeming one from a brand new Pokeball Plus, which can only distribute one of them. And that's it. There are only 2 ways out of the 25 years of Pokemon to obtain a Mew outside of an event. And the only way to actually obtain Mew Candy is by walking with a Mew with your Pokeball Plus item. But the glaring problem is still there for how rare the Pokemon is to get in the first place. And no, a Mew from Pokemon Go will not work because it has to be a Mew from the Pokeball Plus item that you bought that distributed one of them. For some reason, Mew from Pokemon Go just is not compatible. So I'm not even sure how many of these candies exist in these games because who on earth would ever transfer a Mew to Professor Oak to get Mew Candy, sacrificing their own precious rare Mew? And for those who bought the Pokeball Plus, how many of them are actually walking with their Mew to get the candy? It's probably not a lot. This may be the Holy Grail item for this video, so I'll put it in the very rare tier for now. But we still have 2 more generations to go. Next is Generation 8, which has 2 rare items. The first one is the Sport Ball and Safari Ball items, which have a 1 in 1,000 chance of coming out of a Kreml Manic when you feed it 4 apricorns. And that's basically it. These are some of the rarest items in all of the games just because of the odds of getting them is very low. So I will say these Pokeballs are rare. And the second one is the Hometown Muffin item. And this is kind of a niche one because in Legends Arceus, you can only get one of these items in the entire game after completing the side mission, The Taste of Home. And once you complete the mission and receive it, you immediately consume it. So you can't actually use it or give it to a Pokemon or even look at it in your bag after obtaining it. So I will say this is an uncommon item for this video. And then lastly, we have Generation 9. And I think these games have 2 worthy items for this video. The first item is the Meteorite from the auction items in Puerto Marinanda Market. Because in Venue 4, you have to bring a legendary or mythical Pokemon in order to have a chance of bidding on their signature item. And realistically, out of all the items you can bid on, with the Pokemon that you have to have in your team to bid on it, the Prison Bottle item is definitely the rarest one because it requires a Hoopa to be in your party. And Hoopa is only obtainable through events from previous games. It's never been available in the game itself, basically making the Prison Bottle in Scarlet and Violet an event item. But I won't be counting it because, like I said in the beginning of this video, I'm not counting items that are exclusive to events. The items have to be available in the games in a legitimate way somehow. So the next rarest item under this video's criteria is definitely the Meteorite, which requires a Deoxys to bid on it, which would require you to transfer a Deoxys all the way from Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire to Scarlet and Violet for the chance of bidding on this rare item. So the item is not even guaranteed the first time after doing all of the hard work. So this one I would say is very rare, but we'll see if it holds up because in the Legends EA DLC, Hoopa is making an appearance, so you might be able to catch Hoopa finally in a native Pokemon game outside of an event. And speaking of Legends EA, the last item on this list is the Shiny Charm from this game, because in Legends EA, it requires level 50 in Mabel's Research, which requires you to win 1,000 battles, which just takes hours and hours to do. It is a total grind to get this item. So for that reason, I think it is rare. Now that we've covered every rare item from all the Pokemon games, it is now time to declare one as a Holy Grail. Which one of these will be promoted to the rarest item of all? And it comes down to the items in the very rare tier, which are the Starfberry, Regidolls, Eon Tickets, the Mew Candy, and the Meteorite. And I think we can eliminate the Starfberry Meteorite off the bat because these items don't require you to purchase anything outside of the game. Like the Regidolls and Eon Tickets require Eater cards, and the Mew Candy requires a Pokeball Plus. And out of these 3 purchasable items, I think the Regidoll Decoration Present Eater card is by far the hardest one to obtain legitimately, since the Pokeball Plus is relatively new and the Eon Ticket is pretty well known and was distributed for several years. Which means, in my opinion, the Regidoll Decoration items are the Holy Grail of all Pokemon items. Who would have thought? Some dolls.